Welcome back to the Urban Pharmacy Podcast. I am thrilled to have you here and to tell you about today's guest. It is Dr. Tom O'Brien. He is the author of The Autoimmune Fix and an internationally recognized speaker and writer on chronic disease and metabolic disorders. Founder of the website The Doctor, he organized the popular Gluten Summit in November 2013 and a second one in May 2016. And Dr. O'Brien has more than 30 years of experience as a functional medicine practitioner and is an adjunct professor at the Institute for Functional Medicine. You're going to love this episode. We really cover inflammation in this episode and learn about Dr. O'Brien's upcoming free summit that you can easily click down in the show notes to attend. And before we get into the episode, I want to make sure that you know about my new brand that I have found for holistic skincare and beauty. It is called Oliveda, and I am absolutely obsessed with it. It is waterless, all based on the olive leaf extract or raw Arbequina pressed olive oil, and it has been getting people wild results. So I want to be sure to share this with you. The cool thing about Oliveda or olive tree people is that it is an inside out and outside in approach to beauty. So there are things that support gut health and also things that support skin health, and they work synergistically together. Also, there are some internals that you can take to keep your immune system boosted, like the Camu olive leaf extract, which I think every single person needs in their household at all times. And I have just been really adoring the waterless concept. Now, the brand that I used to work with was not waterless, meaning that it was actually based on water and preservatives. So I'm getting much better results for my skin. It is reversing the time. It's keeping my crow's feet at bay and keeping my skin hydrated. And it's just a joy to continue serving people with holistic beauty that actually works better than what I was using before. So make sure that you click down in the show notes to check out Oliveda. If you take the olive skin quiz, you will get a free eye product if you purchase 2 of the recommendations. So if you have any questions, you know where to find me. But happy shopping, and I hope that you enjoy this episode of the Urban Pharmacy Podcast. We'll see you soon. Dr. Tom O'Brien, welcome to the Urban Pharmacy Podcast. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So you and I were chatting before we hit record for this podcast, and you are having a summit that we're going to learn about. We're going to learn all about this upcoming summit so that we can share with all of our loved ones, because it is on a very, very important topic that I think definitely is the underlying cause of all of the dis-ease that we are experiencing in our body, which you are going to kind of unpack for us today, and that is inflammation. So what is inflammation? Can you just give me a basic definition there? And then we're going to kind of go back to, your history and learn more about how you got into this.
Sure. May I start with a study, and then we'll go to the inflammation part, because this is jaw-dropping. In the Journal of the American Medical Association, they published a study from Harvard in 2019, and it should be on everyone's fingertips. It's so incredibly important, but you'll find out this is like, what? And they looked at couples going to assisted fertility centers. And as you may know, and you may have some friends that have done this, they're spending tens of thousands of dollars to try to get pregnant and have a healthy pregnancy and a baby. And the editors of the journal wrote a comment. They said, this is an elegant study using sophisticated biomarkers to demonstrate their point. Now, the editors of the Journal of the American Medical Association don't say that very often. That's rare. So we knew that, well, okay, we can't argue with this. This is okay. And they looked at the factors that contribute to success or failure with implantation and then a successful pregnancy. And they ruled out all the known factors. They ruled out obesity. They ruled out alcohol. They ruled out cigarette smoking. They ruled out exercise or no exercise. They ruled all these things out in an elegant way that can't be argued with. And they isolated it down to one thing. How many servings of fruits and vegetables is the woman eating a day?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we all know the answer to that. No, we don't. And they divided it into fourths. Those eating the lowest number of servings per day, a little bit higher, the higher, and then the highest. And what did they find? They found that those eating the largest amount of fruits and vegetables per day had an 18% less likelihood of successful implantation.
Mm.
The more fruits and vegetables you ate, the worse the outcome.
Okay.
And if they did have successful implantation, they had a 26% less likelihood of a live birth. They lost the baby to miscarriages and stillbirths. Wait, the more fruits and vegetables you eat, the worse the outcome? Yes. And you can't argue with the study. It was an elegant study using sophisticated biomarkers from Harvard, and the Journal of the American Medical Association said, wow, this jaw-dropping. Now, there was a subgroup in that category of women at assisted fertility centers, those eating organic. And for those eating organic, it was the exact opposite. The more organic fruits and vegetables, the more successful the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, what?
Wow. How have I not
Now,
heard of this study yet?
one more point on this study. Those that were eating organic were put in the category of organic if they were eating 3 meals a week of organic, not 21 meals a week.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And I spoke to the authors and I said, so why do you think that is? Well, we don't know. These guys are from Harvard. They're not going to say anything unless they've got lots of data to prove it. And I said, well, do you suspect that their lifestyle, that if they're eating organic every once in a while, they're probably using organic shampoo or those types of organic house cleaning supplies? And they said, well, we didn't check for that. I said, I understand you didn't check for it, but what do you think? He said, well, yeah, that probably there is that contribution. So that study is, wait, what? Your friends are spending tens of thousands of dollars to start a family, wanting to be healthy, and nobody knows this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this was published 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's go back to your initial question. With that concept, let's go back to the initial question. What is inflammation? Mrs. Patient, inflammation is produced by your immune system. And your immune system is the armed forces in your body. It's there to protect you. There's an Army, a Navy, an Air Force, a Marines, a Coast Guard. We call them IgA, IgG, IgE, IgM, cytokines. They're all different branches of the immune system trying to protect you. That's their job. So the question is, when you have excess inflammation, you have an activated immune system. The question is, what is it trying to protect you from? And people don't think about this. They think, well, I feel fine. I don't feel bad. Well, by the time you feel bad, you're way down the road of tissue damage. By the time you have symptoms, there is this low-grade chronic inflammation. I travel the world and I'm on stage teaching physicians all over the world about functional medicine. And doctors don't think like this. So I've been starting to talk about this for the last couple of years as part of the introduction for whatever the topic is that we're teaching on. The Center for Disease Control tells us that 14 of the 15 top causes of death in the world today are chronic inflammatory diseases. Everything except unintentional injuries, an accident. Everything else is chronic. It's been there for a long time. Inflammation that eventually produces a disease. They're all that way.
Right.
So when you think from that perspective, well, do I have inflammation? I feel fine. Yes, you do. just living in this world that we live in today, you absolutely have low-grade chronic inflammation going on right now.
Yep.
But people don't know that because, oh, I feel fine. It's okay if I'm using the standard dishwashing detergent, for my dishwasher. Really? When you read the studies, that those things are not, those detergents are, and dishwashers are not airtight. And when you turn them on, some of the chemicals in the dishwashing fluid, they get heated up, they start to vaporize, they come out into the air. Your family's breathing toxic air.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the only time you turn on a dishwasher is at night when everyone's asleep and nowhere near it. And you use non-toxic dishwashing detergent.
Right.
Because it's all these little things that we have to learn about that set us up for the diseases that we get.
Right. And it's so interesting. You said that two points I want to make with that. Like you said, no matter what we do, we all are walking around with this inflammation. And it's a lot of the times, even if we're living in a bubble, it's absolutely, it's impossible to avoid it all because our air has been contaminated. Our waterways have been contaminated. It is just what is the world today. It is the reality of what's going on. And I just, not to make myself sound like a hippie or anything, I just got back from Woodstock Fruit Festival where I was around a ton of organic, like just fruits and vegetable people. Okay. Like, let's just say it that way. And I was talking to them about that. I was just like, no matter how clean the diet is, no matter how clean our cosmetics are, how low tox our laundry detergent is, all of that stuff, it's just almost impossible to get away from, with this industrialized world, from the toxins that we don't have control over. And speaking of that, on our way to the airport from this festival yesterday, I was in an Uber and he was, he had a lot of like phlegm and you could tell inflammation in his throat. And he had one of those air fresheners hanging down and I had an instant headache and my son was even coughing and it was not an ideal situation. And I mean, every maybe minute or so, he was clearing his throat and he couldn't understand me. He did not speak English. He was like Italian, actually. We were down in Miami and he was trying to speak Italian to us. Anyways, I wanted to say something, like, hey, if you take that down, you'll stop clearing your throat. You have chronic inflammation going on whenever you're walking into the car. So it's just,
Yes.
anyways.
So what, you're absolutely right. And one of the things that we're going to be teaching the attendees of our event, it's all free, by the way, but one of the things we're going to be teaching is when you get in an Uber and the first thing you do is you look on the rear view mirror. If you see one of those air scent things, get out.
Yeah, I know.
Get out. And so it's such an inconvenience. I understand, but you and your children are breathing toxic fumes.
It was horrible.
That accumulate in your body. So let's talk about accumulation for a minute.
Let's do
because
that, yeah.
It's such a critically important. Chicago, 2016, they looked at 326 pregnant women in the 8th month of pregnancy. And they collected urine samples and they looked at the number of phthalates in urine. Now, phthalates are chemicals used to mold plastic.
Right.
And they were looking to see, does this person have any phthalates in their urine being excreted? And they put the results into fourths, the lowest, the next, the third, and the highest. They followed the offspring of those pregnancies for 7 years. And when the children turned 7 years old, they did Wechsler IQ tests on them, the official IQ test. Every child whose mother was in the highest category of phthalates in urine in pregnancy compared to the children in the lowest, whose mothers were in the lowest category of phthalates in urine in pregnancy, every child whose mother was in the highest category, their IQ was 7 points lower.
Wow.
6.7 to 7.4 points lower.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean anything to anyone until you understand a 1 point difference in IQ is noticeable. A 7 point difference in IQ is a difference between a child working really hard, getting straight A's in school, and a child seriously working really hard, getting straight C's.
Mm-hmm.
This child doesn't have a chance in hell of ever excelling.
Right.
Now just go to Google and type in phthalates and neurogenesis, nerve growth. Here come the studies. The higher the phthalates, the more inhibition of brain cell growth and development. Now, okay, well, I don't have phthalates. Really? When you put nail polish on, the phthalates that make the polish hard are in your bloodstream in 4 to 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What? Yeah, but they're minute amounts. There's no evidence that that amount is toxic to humans, and that's how they get away with this.
Right.
Well, there's no evidence that this is toxic to humans, but this is accumulative, right, in that dose. But it's accumulative in your body. So give me a 5-year-old girl that's painting her 10 little fingers and her 10 little toes for 25 years. Now she's 30 years old, married and wanting to start a family, and gets pregnant, and hopefully it's a healthy pregnancy, an uneventful pregnancy. I shouldn't say healthy, an uneventful pregnancy. And baby's born and great, they're happy. 7 years down the road, though, if she was in the highest category of phthalates, baby's brain did not develop properly and baby's IQ is compromised.
Right.
So, okay, nail polish or plastic food containers that you put your leftover food in. That you put your chicken in the container in the refrigerator the next day, the chicken's got phthalates in it. Yep. Because it was touching the surface of the container on the inside. Or you go to a coffee.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, coffee shop with those plastic lined coffee cups.
Exactly. And the lids.
Yes.
And the lids, you do this and it hits the underside of the lid and it tapers down into the opening full of bisphenol A, one of the phthalates. That we need to change how we think about the environment around us and our family. So it really is one of those times where a good offense is necessary to have good defense. Yeah. You have to protect yourself and your family, but to do that, you have to be active. You have to have an offense. You have to say, I'm not getting in a car with one of those scent things in it.
Yeah.
Because when you get a headache from that, as you shared happened to you, that's inflammation in your brain. And that's killing off brain cells. Mm-hmm. Now, and we think, well, it's not a big deal. I'll be fine tomorrow. Blue Cross Blue Shield in February of 2020 published a paper saying, we got a problem here. We've got a real problem, but it was ignored because that's when the virus came. And so it was ignored. But what they showed was that in the previous 4-year period, there was a 407% increase in the diagnosis of Alzheimer's in 30 to 44-year-olds. Okay. A 407% increase in 4 years. That's in your generation. A 407% increase in 4 years. And so it's all of this inflammation that is in our body, killing off brain cells, killing off brain cells, killing off brain cells. And if we don't learn how to have a strong offense to play defense, we are at risk of these chronic degenerative diseases. 14 of the 15 top causes of death are chronic inflammatory diseases. Mm-hmm. Every autoimmune disease, whether it's Hashimoto's or celiac or lupus or MS, every one is going up 4 to 9% a year, every year. Every year. Mind-blowing. More and more people are being diagnosed with autoimmune diseases. Why? Because we're being exposed to more and more of these toxins. This is a primary reason why the lifespan has now gone down. In the last 5 years, the World Health Organization tells us that the expected lifespan of a newborn is less every year than it was for their parents. That our society is going way in the wrong direction. And so what we want to do is we've got a little bit of time here, so I'm just doing study after study after study with you, right? But we interviewed the experts. I interviewed David Furman at the Buck Institute. Now, very few people know who he is, but he has the contract with NASA. He and his team are looking at why are the astronauts aging so quickly in space?
Wow.
It's impossible for humans to go to Mars. It's a 2.5 year trip for the shuttle or for the spacecraft to get there, but humans will die of old age in 2 or 2.5 years. Aging is extremely accelerated in space. So his team has been researching this. What did he find? And what's he finding? It's chronic.
Are they just testing the length of the telomeres?
Well, that's a component of it,
Okay.
but there's much, much more.
Yeah.
He's got a whole protocol on this.
Okay.
And what they find is that it's chronic low-grade inflammation killing off tissue, killing off tissue, killing off tissue. While you feel fine, you think you're okay. Well, yeah, I get a headache if I get in an Uber, but that's not bad. That means your threshold is gone.
Right.
You get just a little bit of exposure and your threshold's through the roof. I would wager you personally that if you did the right blood test to identify inflammation in your brain, I would wager $500 that you'll come back positive to excessive inflammation in your brain.
Yeah.
And you don't know this. And so you're not taking defensive action to reduce that inflammation that kills off brain cells. You just don't know. And so our event is to introduce to people that, wow, you mean this world we're living in is really a toxic world right now? Yes. Yeah. Yes. And it's not difficult. I mean, NASA, because of Furman's work, NASA financed the studies on houseplants. And what they showed was that 2 6-inch houseplants in a 10-by-10 room absorbs over 70% of the toxins in the air.
Yeah, and VOCs and.
Exactly. And so, if you go to my website, the dr.com/plant, there's the handout from NASA with the pictures of the plants. You say, oh, my mom has some of those plants. They're very common everyday house plants and what they absorb: formaldehydes, volatile organic compounds, VOCs, flame retardant chemicals. Right. So you see, because if you have carpet, phthalates, So it's not hard to take action once you know what to do to reduce the amount of exposures to these toxins that activate your immune system, trying to protect you from what you're being exposed to. And it's an overwhelming topic, completely overwhelming. And I know it is. That's why I can go boom, 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 because all the science is there. So what we're doing over the 8 days of this event, it'll be 8 or 9 days, I'm not sure yet, is we're going to introduce the experts. I've traveled the world interviewing the experts, and we'll have 6 minutes of Dr. Furman from the Buck Institute, 9 minutes of Dr. Dale Bredesen, who wrote the book Reversing Alzheimer's, and he's got hundreds of cases of diagnosed Alzheimer's completely normal now. So we interviewed Dr. Bredesen, and then 7 minutes of Dr. Bland, the founder of Functional Medicine. We're telling a story. Every day it's going to be a story, so that people can get the big picture. And then we're going to give them some recommendations. Well, here's a handout from NASA on houseplants, or here's a list of organic cosmetic companies, or we want to give people tools so that they can begin just taking the little steps to change the environment for them and their family, reducing the activation of your immune system, trying to protect you. That's all it's doing, is trying to protect you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And this is truly what I teach. I mean, I have a whole membership about this. I think it's so important that you're doing these bite-sized information, snippets, so that people can have digestibility of this information, because like you said, it is very overwhelming, and you can just go down the rabbit. I mean, you can go down the entire rabbit hole if you want to. I mean, But here's the deal. When you're talking about bioaccumulation, it's not just, or, when you're talking about accumulation, it's not just accumulation in our body, like bioaccumulation. This is something I want to share with the audience who's listening to this. I've been in the clean beauty space for over 8 years now. And I've even lobbied in DC for better cosmetic reform. And this is something that I know a thing or two about. And it's very interesting because it's actually up the supply chain as well. These toxins are being accumulated. For instance, there was a lipstick that this brand that I was working with is supposed to launch, and they went through rigorous testing before it ever came to market. They found phthalates in the end result, and they could not figure out why and what was happening. But what had ultimately happened is they started seeking out, where they were sourcing ingredients, and there was these rose petals, these organic rose petals that were in the lipstick. And they went to the farm to see like what the process was, because they couldn't figure out any other ingredients that could have been. And these organic rose petals were actually being harvested in plastic bags, and they were actually absorbing the phthalates from those plastic bags.
Yes.
And
yes.
the whole, the whole thing of lipstick never went to market because of this. And
Wow.
that farm actually ended up changing to burlap sacks to harvest their organic rose petals moving forward. And, it can accumulate, like all of these toxins can accumulate so far down the food chain or down the cosmetics chain. And just one last topic on that, in terms of cosmetics and skincare and stuff like that, even phthalates can leach from plastic tubing that goes into the lotions. So it's always something, like you said, like don't put your food in plastic. Also, try not to get beauty products that are housed in plastic, especially liquid lotions and stuff like that. So
yes, that's why people, the world needs people like you to explain these concepts, so that when you say this is really a good product, you've done your due diligence to show that it is.
Right.
So our job is to educate the general public of how important it is to find the kind of information that you're giving to people.
Yeah.
Because most people don't know, organic nail polish, whatever. I don't,
Right.
It costs more. I'm not going to do that. They don't understand that how important it is. And so our job is just to show you the evidence, to talk to the experts, so that and then to give you some options of where you begin to look. And on this topic of being overwhelming, I want to address that, because there's no question it is, no question. In my book, You Can Fix Your Brain, it's #1 in 7 categories on Amazon on brain function when we launched it. I'm very proud of that.
Amazing.
It's really a good book. The subtitle of the book was Just 1 hour a week to the best memory, productivity, and sleep you've ever had. And that is the only way we have seen patients be successful in the long term with changing lifestyle. So you tell your family, you know what? Every Tuesday night after dinner, or every Sunday after services, whenever it is, but every week at this time, don't bother me. I'm going to spend an hour and I'm going to learn a little more. So you remember something about these storage containers in the kitchen. You go back to my book, and there's 3 URLs for glass storage containers. There's mileskimball.com and Amazon, and then whatever the third one was, I don't remember. And you look at those, so those are okay. You look, I like those. And you order 3 round ones and 2 square ones and 1 for the pie, and you pay with a credit card, hit send, you're done. It took an hour, and you're done for the week. Yeah. And you'll never poison your family again with minute amounts of phthalates from stored food in plastic containers.
Right.
Next week, you go and you allocate an hour to lipstick. Next week, you allocate an hour to houseplants. And within 6 months, you have changed your environment for you and your family for the rest of your lives.
I love that. That is amazing. I love
really
the
works.
framework. You know,
Yeah,
that really just goes right in line with like the 1% better every day mentality. Like you're
yeah,
breaking it down to so achievable. Like you have, 7 full-blown days of 24-hour days, just 1 hour out of those 7 days that
yes,
can in 6 months can completely transform all of the choices, your buying decisions, and like in your environment, like in just 6 months. That's amazing. I
yes,
feel like that's
yes.
really achievable.
I agree. I agree.
Love that.
And thank you for that acknowledgement. And our patients and our people say, yeah, that really works. And then in 6 months, you go to church and you see somebody you haven't seen in a long. Wow, what happened to you? You
Mhm.
look great. You look so young. What
Right.
makeup are you? Well, actually, what I did was I got rid of the phthalates in my kitchen storage containers and I changed my nail polish. And they start
Yeah.
going down the line of everything they've done, and
Right.
your friends go, and your friends are overwhelmed. They say, no,
Yeah.
but you just do 1 hour a week every week,
Right.
and you
Yeah.
can get there too. So,
Yeah, that's so exciting and just inspiring. And so this summit that you're putting on is going to help people do the same thing, right? And they're going to hear from so many wellness experts and doctors and professionals in this field, helping people understand that we do all have a threshold, and every person has a different level, has different thresholds. Some people can be triggered from things really easily, some people can't. And when we get to that point where we are having symptoms, that's been just a long time coming, right? It's not
that's
just
right.
like we are all of a sudden sensitive to X, Y, and Z. This has been something that has been accumulating
That's
from
exactly
all
right.
of these little tiny inflammatory stressors that we have on a daily basis, right? And Dr. O'Brien, speaking of stress, is that going to be addressed in the summit in
Oh,
terms of
yes, yes,
inflammation?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The accumulation of stress hormones is a terrible activator of the immune system,
Hmm.
to produce more inflammation. Absolutely right. And
Yeah.
sleep, and how do you get quality sleep is another. Then detoxing, how do I get these chemicals out of my body that are there? So
Right.
a lot of these technical concepts that are over, people say, yeah, I should get better sleep, but we don't know what to do. And
Right.
so we're giving you bite-sized nuggets, and you'll choose which ones work best for you.
Right. I love that. Okay, so give us some more information on how to get into the summit and any other, closing words or any other information
Sure,
you want to
sure.
provide.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Just go to theinflammationequation.com,
Okay.
and it's there. And there is a 6-minute trailer where you really get a taste of what this is about, and it's so captivating. You see my friend Dr. Terry Walls, who she had multiple sclerosis, and she was in a slanted wheelchair. She couldn't sit up straight, and her brain was going. And you hear her talk about what she did and how she did it. And she said, my therapist said that I could increase to 15 minutes of exercise twice a day, and then 20 minutes, and then 25 minutes, and then I could walk with a walker, and then with a cane, and then without a cane, walking free, and then I could ride my bicycle again. And she gives you the step-by-step concepts while she has tears in her eyes and says, who knows how much improvement is possible?
Mm-hmm.
And it's always inflammation. When you reduce the inflammation, your body will then want to heal, and you'll produce healthier, younger, stronger cells. So that's the basic image. And it's theinflammationequation.com. You can register there. It's free. Everything's free. And
Love it.
we would look forward to seeing you there.
I love it. Dr. Tom O'Brien, thank you so much for sharing this information, and everybody just get signed up at the link below. These types of summits you don't want to miss. These are the things that over the last, 15 years I've been listening to. Really in the last decade, they have blown up, like you and I were talking about offline, Dr. O'Brien. These online talks, these where health professionals come together with loads and loads of years and years of experience, loads of testimonials and proof of showing that lifestyle change can be so significant to reducing our feelings of disease and reducing our inflammation and improving our lifespan and our quality of life. These types of things are truly where I have found some of the most influential health professionals of my life that have really changed, my thinking and molded my career. So I highly suggest that you guys listen into this, to this series and just be inspired throughout how many days is it? 7 days, you said? 8 days?
7 or 8 days, yes.
Okay, right. So that will be a really good way for you to just start getting locked in, a little bit every single day. And that can be your kickstart to
one hour a day.
1 hour a day.
1 hour a day.
I love those summits. I love it when I'm like, oh, for the next 7 days, I have 1 hour to myself that I'm going to dedicate to my well-being. And I always end up on a better note on the other side. So you guys just click down below, get registered for it. Again, it's free. And I know you'll be so inspired. And inflammation, we all need to reduce. So this is going to be really valuable. Thank you for your time, Dr. O'Brien. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.